Hot Fire Banter, we're back. We're live here. Got a nice raging fire tonight. We are talking all things Bigfoot. So we got a couple nice little things we're gonna be talking about. We got Kevin Patrick back on the show.
Hey everybody. Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Yeah, Kevin's really helped us put this thing together. You know, with a couple of your buddies that you know, and getting some guys on Zoom tonight. So I will introduce Mr. Robert Robinson. He's going to be in the car. I hope we were able to keep a good signal with him the whole time. And then we also have, you got us there. So then we also have Rich Meyer on the call as well. He's up in the UP. We got one in the UP, and we got UP in Michigan, and we got one in Tampa. So we're all over the country right now. We're sitting in the suburbs of Chicago, as you know. So we're all over the place tonight. And we should be having a guest, Jim Sherman, hopefully jump in on this call as well. So we'll see where he's coming from, what neck of the woods he's coming from. Yeah, I did the neck of the woods thing. You got that? You saw that? Yep. So yeah, let's start talking about this a little bit. So Robert, you are an author and wrote the Legend Tripper, correct?
Yeah.
Cool. And then that's not just...
I like... I'm sorry?
No, I was just saying that it's not just about Bigfoot either, though. You're talking about UFOs and, you know, all other sort of paranormal stuff in the book, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I'll be honest, I primarily like looking for Bigfoot because I like going out in the woods, but I do go, you know, with, you know, my wife is more the ghost hunter than I am, but I do go out. We do the paranormal, we do the UFOs, we do, you know, sometimes just mysterious places. But I love of looking for Bigfoot in there.
That's awesome. So have you ever come up north looking for anything, or you primarily do down there?
I have been up in Pennsylvania. That's where my wife's from. And we've done some stuff up there. A little bit in Ohio. But that's about as far north as I've been.
Gotcha. Okay. And then what inspired you to write the book?
Actually, another author, Charlie Carlson, he wrote the book Weird Florida. He became kind of like a mentor. And he invited me to come out and do presentations. And I picked up on the term legend tripping because the way I came up with it is I went out with my wife to do ghost hunts, and she always comes out with me when I, you know, go out Bigfoot hunting, but she didn't want to be called a monster hunter, and I didn't want to be called a ghost hunter. So we found the term legend tripping, and we kind of went with that, and I started using it. And I noticed there really wasn't anything in print. And Charlie said, "Hey, dude, you need to put this in writing, what you're up here talking about." So I wrote it, and I had an awesome publisher, David Hatcher Childress, from that TV show Ancient Aliens. Because I put one book out, which was a disaster. He got a hold of it, and he said, "Hey, man, let's redo this book and do it right." And it did. It came out 100 times better. And I just put out a new one. You know, first one is called Legend Tripping, the Ultimate Adventure. And my new one is International Legend Tripping, Adventure Outside the Box.
That's funny because in the reviews of your book, someone mentioned that, saying that they wish that they were from Australia and they wish that there was, you know, some stuff they could do in their country. And that they said it was a great book, great read, but they were hoping that someone would do something more international based. So that's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah. In fact, you know, oddly enough, my book has done really well in Australia.
Really? Yeah, that's funny. I don't know. Why is that? Why do you think?
Like you said, there really isn't anything. And then when I did international, it turned out that when I was doing the paranormal, the most haunted places I found, which I thought was going to be like England and Europe, was actually Australia. And of course, you know, they have the Yowie, which is their version or their Bigfoot. And they have, you know, quite a bit of active groups over there. In the book, I got in touch with them, and they were really helpful. You know, in fact, they couldn't say, you know, help me enough getting everything down and, you know, on paper and putting out about some of the stuff that they, the investigation of some of the stuff that's going on down there in the land down under.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, getting some international reach with the books. That's excellent.
Yeah.
But then I did want to start talking a little bit to Rich here, Rich Meyer. So,
Yeah.
Rich, how did you get involved in Bigfoot? What inspired you to start doing all this stuff and going on Bigfoot hunts and all that?
I guess I've been a lifelong hunter and fisherman.
Okay.
And I didn't realize it, but the entire time I was hunting and fishing with my dad, we were looking for Bigfoot at the same time. He never said Bigfoot. He never said Sasquatch. He just always said, there's something else in the woods with us. Well, he passed away in 2011. And around 2013, I was watching one of the shows on TV, talking to my mom on the phone because I live 6 hours from her. And she's like, well, that's what was going on when you were out hunting and fishing with your dad all the time. I said, no, I never realized that. And the more I started to put two and two together, and sitting in a swamp on a perfectly calm day, and you hear a tree go down, you hear that pack of coyotes, it sounds just off a little bit, and then everything else goes by it. And some of the things that you see and hear, I said, all right, there could be something to this. And I started to look. I formed my group, the UPBFRO, in 2013, shortly after that. And then the BFRO contacted me about being a researcher for them here in the UP.
Okay, and break that down. What was all those letters you told me? What's the name of your organization again?
It's the Upper Peninsula Bigfoot Sasquatch Research Organization.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll
So
have to check that out as well.
Yeah, I just say
stuff.
UPBFRO for short.
Okay, gotcha. So what are some of your favorite encounters or favorite have you heard stuff? Have you heard like some of these calls and stuff that they make? Or tell us some about your experience.
I haven't had what you would call a Class A sighting, something where it's right there in front of you. You see it, there's no questioning it. But running expeditions and taking other people out, we found tracks, we've heard howls. I've got a farmer that's not too far from me that sent me 1,100 pictures from his trail cams that he set up to try and put some distance between him and the Bigfoots, of them showing intelligence and knowing where his cameras were. What I mean by that is he's got pictures of rocks and sticks going horizontal through the camera frames. And what they were doing is standing back, throwing a stick across and watching it activate the IR light in the camera, the IR flash. So if it was 1 or 2 pictures, it doesn't show much. But when you end up with that many pictures that he has, and then the rock stacks are right on the edge, and he can walk behind the rock stack and not activate the camera, but he walks on the other side of the rock stack and he gets pictures of himself, that shows intelligence.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And then actually going to Robert, tell us about one of your favorite stories about being out there and some of the stuff that you've seen.
Well, I've had a couple of incidents. We had back in 2012, I had a gentleman come up to me, and he had said that Thanksgiving morning he was out at a place called the Green Swamp, and he actually took a video, and he came in and with his son, and they told me about it and showed me the video, and it was a it's a really good video that he had taken, but he didn't want to be on TV. He didn't want to go too far with it because he didn't want to the ridicule. But he took me and my wife out there. So I put some trail cameras out there, and then I went out with my wife and stuff to go out there again on another evening. And I had my son with me, and we were walking down the road, this path to get it. And all of a sudden we hear something splashing around down in the path out there. And next thing I know it, me and my son heard some kind of growling going on. And my son had a pair of night vision goggles, which it was just a pair that he had gotten in a video game. And I didn't take anything with me because I thought we were just going to, go down the road, get the trail cam and come on back to the car. And he, brought up the night vision. He said, "Hey, Pop, there's some glowing eyes over there." So, he handed me the night vision. I look over and I could see something out there. And then we heard it, and then it started screaming at us. And, we're like, "Oh God, that's not a bear. That's not a panther. That's, we didn't know what it was." So I was sitting there and we were just watching it. And I looked behind and my son's gone. I went, "Oh my God, he took off on me. He left me here by myself, And I'm looking over the night vision. I can see it. And whatever it is, it's staring over at me. And I could hear it breathing. As you can tell, I have my, I'm sorry, guys. I'm in the middle of Tampa right now, and I probably don't even need it anymore. I know where I'm at now, but I'm sorry.
You got that right.
I love your wife's laugh in the background.
Yeah,
It's great.
that's what I said. She's not supposed to be laughing at me. anyway, I'm looking at it, and then I start hearing noises behind me, and I think, "Oh God, there's another one." I think this one got has got my attention, so the other one can sneak up behind me. And I turn behind and I look over. My son pokes his head out from behind a tree, looking at me, going, "Is it still there?" And I was like, "Oh God, great! It's just him." And he, so he came up to me, and we're debating what to do, and all of a sudden it screams at us again and started kicking up water. And my son says, "Hey, Pop, I think we need to leave. I don't think this thing wants us out here." So we head back to back over to the car. But whatever it was that's screaming, I've never heard any scream like that before. And when I say the glowing eyes, we were looking up. We weren't looking straight ahead at the eyes. And so we got back to the car, and my wife and my daughter were sitting at our car, and they're like, "Did you hear that screaming?" And I said, "Yeah, that's what we were out there with. That's why we got back." So yeah, we decided, to call it a quits that night and head on back out. But that was one instance.
Did you guys end up with dry pants on the way back, or how did that work out?
I never did ask my son if he did or not, but I was, I did have my knife with me, so yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, what do you say to the skeptics, and though the people that will sit there and say, "Oh, there's no way. Why aren't there good pictures of them, like this and that?" And before you answer that question, before looking into some of this, I pretty much am a skeptic. But hearing some of these stories, that would make me change my mind. Having a first-person encounter like that. But
I mean,
Robert, what do you say to the skeptic?
Well, I have interviewed a lot of people, and and I've interviewed people who I could tell were just trying to get on TV. But I've also interviewed people who I could tell clearly saw something, just the way they acted, And then, like that gentleman I told you who saw it. I mean, his son told me that it took them like an hour to get him to get off the tree stand. He was so rattled at what he had saw, And then when he got home, they said he went right to his room and was laying in his bed, I mean, so he saw something that, and this is an avid hunter, he knew there was bears out there and panthers. So he saw something that clearly, rattled him in the brain. And one thing I always pick up on when I'm interviewing people is the people that I can pick. Well, my wife's actually pretty good about better than I am at picking up people lying, is that we get them to tell the story 3 times. And if they're lying, they can't. Yeah, they can't tell if they're lying, they can't tell the story 3 times straight.
That's not skeptical.
All right.
Yeah.
But a person that has seen something that they cannot, they can tell you everything they did that day. To the detail is, I had a lady over in the Swanee River. We were out there doing a Bigfoot hunt, and one morning we went to the restaurant, and the guy I was with was bragging to all the waitresses that we were Bigfoot hunters. I think he was trying to, impress them. But we came in one morning and the manager said, hey, you may want to talk to that couple over there. I think they saw something. I looked over at the table and they were both dressed in camouflage. And the woman was in hysteria, just crying and pointing her finger at her husband. And he was trying to calm her down. And I said, man, maybe we should go ask her. And my, friend's like, I don't know. She seems pretty upset. I said, well, let's just go see. But, the worst thing she can tell us is you don't want to talk to us. So we get up, we walk over. I introduced myself and I said, hey, I heard you may have seen a Bigfoot. And she's just kind of, I told you that was a Bigfoot. I told you I never wanted to go hunting before. And you made me go out there. And then I have a doggone Bigfoot come up to, and what, and oh, and she was just, and he was just like, oh, baby, please, come on. Everybody's looking at us, What had happened was that was her, he took her out hunting, first time hunting, took her down the Swanee River in a boat, took her to a tree stand, put her in a tree stand, and then he took off and went to a different one, which was out of sight. She fell asleep in the tree stand, woke up, and something was pulling at the ladder. She looked down and saw this large, hairy, man-like creature looking up at her. And she said they stared at each other for, it seemed like a long time, but she said it was probably just a couple seconds. And then she started screaming for her husband, and she said this thing just walked off. I said, did it move off real fast? She said, no, it just walked off casual like it. Had a very human-looking face, very light brownish hair on it, but very muscular. And then, her husband came up and he tried, and he said, I couldn't get her off the tree stand. In fact, she said she wasn't coming off the tree stand until Bigfoot was off the planet. She was really upset. Yeah. But, and then of course I said, could you show us where it happened? And she looked at me, she goes, are you crazy? And he gave us the directions. So we went out and we never did actually find the exact spot. We couldn't find the tree stand. I think he didn't quite give us the right direction. But that whole area has been known for having some Bigfoot activity out there. So, I mean, and
where is that again?
This is in the Swanee River. It's a place called Treasure Camp. If you ever look up, it's a restaurant right on the Swanee River. And that was
what
where
state is that? Sorry.
It's in Florida.
Florida, South Florida. Okay.
Okay, we have a traffic accident here, and everybody's trying to jump in front of me right now.
Well, be careful.
Oh, I'm gonna let them in. Better.
Yeah, that's the right thing to do.
But that lady, I do believe, saw something. I mean, just the way, and again, she answered every question. There was no hesitation and anything, and and she didn't have to stop, think about it. Oh, let me think about this. I mean, she had the answers, so. Yeah. But I've had people that I could clearly say, I don't believe you. I think you're just, I'm sorry, I don't believe you. Yeah. So, I take all the sightings. Like you said, I'm a retired military policeman, served 21 years. So I've interviewed a number of people while being in the military. Yeah. And then, and unfortunately, good people do lie, it's unfortunate. And, but and I said, my wife is really good at picking up on that. Only she's not nice about it. She will just kind of say, no, you're not telling the truth. Why are you making this stuff up? So it's kind of, yes, you do. No, but anyway, that's some of the stuff, and we have going on here in Florida, and now of course with it cooling off, we're out there getting out more, and we're starting to get back out there in the field and stuff, and not get chewed up by mosquitoes.
Yeah, that's a problem down in Florida. Down there, you get down in some of those swamps. Got to be real buggy.
And these mosquitoes down here are huge.
Yeah. Small birds, basically.
Hey, Robert, really quick about Florida down there. Aren't the Bigfoot also referred to as skunk ape?
That's what they call that's what it's referred to down here in Florida. But a lot of, there's a lot of investigators, particularly up north in the Panhandle, pretty much just refer to it as Bigfoot.
Okay.
But it is commonly known as the skunk ape here in Florida. Dave Shealy he runs the Skunk Ape headquarters down in Ochopee, Florida, down in the Everglades, and he's kind of kept the term skunk ape going.
I've never heard of that one.
Yeah.
Heard of your woodland ape, your Yeti, your Sasquatch, your Stamskin.
Wood booger.
Wood booger.
Wood booger.
Ooh, that's a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, wood booger. There's a lot of names for them, even dating back to Native American.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rob, we got to get you up to the UP in Chicago to do some research up here.
I would love to. I mean, like I said, my wife's from Pennsylvania. I love coming up in the north. I mean, I grew up an Army brat, and I kind of grew up in Massachusetts on and off when I wasn't, overseas, or my mother's British, so I lived in England too growing up, but I do like coming up to the north. There's a lot to go do up there, and there's a lot of activity going up there.
Yeah, there sure is. Rob, what do you think Bigfoot is?
I think it's some kind of a primate. I do get asked that a lot, and again, this is just my opinion. I'm not gonna, but it does look like it's some sort of a primate. Why it does? I don't have a degree in anthropology to come up. I mean, I have theories. There's a paranthropus that was bones of it. The animal have been found down in South America, and it kind of fits the description of what the Bigfoot looks like. The Gigantopithecus, I'm not really sure about that one, because the orangutan is actually a descendant of Gigantopithecus. So, and this animal is clearly not a orangutan. It's got it's bigger, muscular, walks upright, very comfortable in being bipedal. It's got a very human-looking features in its face. So again, that back to the original question, I think it's a type of primate.
So I've heard people say before that what's like the missing link in evolution between us and primates. I mean, is that something that you would, say that is the missing link there?
I don't know. I mean, the animal, averages about 8 foot.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some investigators down here in Florida that said, the skunk ape's only 6 foot. But, when I was doing my research, looking at old newspaper articles, from the 70s and 80s and all that, and the animal averages about 8 foot. So I think we're dealing not necessarily with a missing link, with something entirely different. And like Lauren Coleman once said, he said, once we find out what this is, it's going to blow the scientific world up. They're going to go crazy when they figure out what this thing is.
Yeah. So, Rich, what, kind of the same question. What would you say when people tell you, they haven't never gotten a good picture of this thing? Why do you think no one's ever been able to get a good picture of this thing, Rich?
Anytime somebody asks me about the good picture thing, I just tell them to go out in their front yard and try and take good pictures of squirrels that they walk up on. We had some bears that were down the road. Everybody knew they were there. Actually, this is when I found out the DNR followed my Facebook page. I knew where the bear was going to be. I pulled my phone out, started to come up on it, tried to take pictures of it standing on the side of the road, and I got 2 little black blobs, 1 picture of a bear butt running into the woods, and that was it. That's all I was ever able to get as far as pictures, and I knew where it was. So if I'm walking through the woods and something steps across the trail in front of me, by the time I get my phone out of my pocket, get to the camera, and then take a picture, it doesn't happen. And then, like I was telling you before, with the trail cams, with that guy that I have that sent me all the pictures of the horizontal rocks and sticks going through the pictures.
Yeah.
If we use that as proof that they can see into the IR spectrum to see the camera flash, then with an IR camera sitting in a tree, once it flashes once or twice and they locate it, they'll know where it is and know to avoid it.
Okay.
So that's why there's no great pictures.
With that many trail cams out there, how many people use these things that they're that hyper aware of these trail cams to where no one's ever gotten a good picture of any of these on a trail cam that's like motion detected, right?
I'm not saying there's never been a picture of one on a trail cam, because there have been. It's just once you start to saturate an area that they come through, it'd be like me coming into your house and putting a nanny cam in.
Yeah.
You'd pick up on that thing that's different in your house.
That's true. Okay, that makes sense. You're out there in their home.
Now, Rich, hey, as an avid hunter up there in the UP, what's hunting season like? How often are you out in the woods? What are you looking for as a hunter? Because I think, in my experience, you know, hunting is a specific season, and you don't have that many people out and about in the woods traveling around like you would regularly. So I think that might be another reason why they've been so elusive too. The UP is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of woods.
With
A lot of woods.
yeah, a lot of woods, lot of desolate area. As far as not that many people in the woods during hunting season, you've obviously never been in the UP during hunting season.
Yeah. The whole town shuts down. Nobody's not in the woods, right?
Yeah, I mean, we shut down our schools for opening day and sometimes a second, just so that the kids can go out and hunt. It's the Orange Army when you come up here. There's places where behind every tree is blaze orange, somebody else hunting ready to go.
Yeah.
So,
when is the off season for hunting in the UP?
rifle season is from November 15th to November 30th. Before that, you've got the entire month of October, first half of November is archery season. You've got bear seasons that start back. You can start baiting in August and you start hunting in September. So
depends on what you're hunting for and what you're using.
Depends on what you're hunting for and what you're out there for.
Yeah.
I stay out of the woods as far as a Bigfooter from November 15th to November 30th. Myself, I haven't deer hunted in probably 20 years, but that's because of jobs and everything else. But I know the work that people put in for that 2 weeks of hunting season. So I try to stay out of the woods, give them their space. The only time I go out during November like that is if somebody specifically calls me and says, hey, I've got this going on. Can you come out and take a look at it? So
Gotcha.
No, wait, are you guys talking about like hunters hunting for Bigfoot and pursuing him, or just hunters encountering Bigfoot?
Real quick, we're going to say hi to Wes, head of security. He's back on. So, no, they were just talking about how he was just saying as far as living in the UP, going out and hunting, you know, deer and stuff like that, that he stays out of the woods the months that those guys are out there hunting deer, just out of respect, basically, and not be in the woods traipsing around. These guys are hunting deer and stuff. But no, I wanted to see, actually, Rob, as far as trail cams and stuff like that, I mean, have you seen like good pictures? And what's the best pictures you've ever seen or anything that was ever captured?
Well, as far as, you know, down here, I haven't seen anything with trail cameras, and I still regularly put them out. But now I've been putting up real high up in the tree versus, you know, eye level and stuff.
Gotcha.
Thinking, you know, because I'm thinking, because, you know, most, you know, like humans, we pretty much look eye level. We never really look up. And I'm thinking maybe the same thing with this animal. So I've been going out there and we've been putting them up really up high. And in fact, I've got to go out next weekend and put some more up. But as far as, you know, what he's saying, the infrared, what I was talking to some zoologists about that. And he said most creatures who live in the woods, you know, there's a certain thing that their eyes pick up on, you know, certain colors. And when you have a color with the IR, they will pick up on it. So it is quite, you know, he said it's very possible that this creature does see the IR, and, you know, maybe it does associate it with, you know, humans. And of course, you know, there are smells all over it, and just knows to stay away from these things. So,
trail cameras, if I can touch that. Oh,
yeah. Yeah, what were you saying?
Oh, the trail cameras. Some of the best things I've seen on the internet are definitely out of like Washington or Oregon, or that whole coast from Southwest Canada down to Northern California. Very active. Yeah, I don't know if you guys touched on that already, or where is he located?
So we have Rob's in Tampa right now, and
So
then
he's got the Skunk Ape down there.
That's who we are, kind of.
the
Skunk Ape. And then we have Rich is up in the UP of Michigan. So yeah.
So and I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but Jim Sherman snuck in here on us too.
Okay, good. I was wondering.
Right.
Jim, are you there?
I'm actually here, yes.
All
right.
Apparently, we sent your invite earlier to the wrong email address. So luckily, I checked my phone mid-show here and saw that you were still trying to get in with us. So thank you so much.
No problem.
So you are somewhat of an audio expert with some of the stuff, correct?
That's the audio stuff is the stuff that I just find the most fun. I
Gotcha.
think the smartest thing that I've ever done when it comes to audio is I've found people that are really, really good at it. And I end up sending things that I collect to them, frankly, because
Gotcha.
I do an okay job being in the woods and collecting the stuff. But when it comes to really the nuts and bolts of the technology analyzing it, there are people that are just so much better than I am. And so I'm kind of like a filter for audio. The things that I collect and I think are interesting, I'll then send them on to people that I trust. And then they can kind of tell me, usually they tell me what things aren't. It's not a bear, not a deer, not whatever, things like that. But every once in a while, I stump them, and it's kind of cool because they're just like, we don't know what that is, and so that's the cool stuff.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to ask you. I mean, so you go into these audio things, you send it to these guys, and they say, yeah, not a bear, not a wolf, not a coyote, and then where do you guys end up? You say, well, unknown. Where do you leave that?
Yeah. Well, frankly, it depends on who you're talking to. If I'm talking to people that are open-minded to the idea of a Sasquatch or anything like that, they're like, okay, we figured out what it's not. Then there's a good chance that this fits a certain phenome vocal level type of stuff that I don't quite understand. And it basically, audio kind of creates something like a fingerprint. And you can put it on a spectrogram and take a look at, this is a coyote. And if you hear something like this, it's probably a coyote. And you can get an idea of generally where various animals have a certain vocal range. And humans have a general vocal range. And so you can get an idea if something in the woods is a person out there screaming or something like that, usually. But then again, there are people that are abnormal and can make different kinds of noises themselves. Also, you can use electronics to manipulate your voice. You could scream into a bucket to make your voice sound weird. You get the idea. But basically what happens is if I send it to people who are open to the idea of Sasquatch, they'll finally get to the point where they're like, this might be a Sasquatch. If I send it to, which I've done in the past, Michigan State University or to the Detroit Zoo, those guys accused me of capturing gibbons. And I'm like, well, there are no gibbons in central Michigan, so I don't know where I would have found a gibbon.
What is that, a bird?
So yeah, a gibbon is kind of like a primate, and they make really interesting noises. But so frankly, it depends on who you send the material to. Yeah. And so lots of times I send it to multiple places just to see what they'll come up with. And that makes it much more interesting. And
so with what you're saying, question, popular opinion that Sasquatch communicates telepathic, or would you be able to pick up on audio if the frequency that we can't?
That is actually a really cool question. What happens is there are animals out there, it's completely normal. There are certain animals that can use frequencies, of course, that we can't hear. The obvious one is like a dog whistle or something like that. But there are also super low frequencies that humans can't hear that's called infrasound. And infrasound can be created by animals like alligators create infrasound. Elephants create infrasound, and they actually listen to it with their feet, which is really odd. Whales create infrasound. And sometimes it's created within something that we can hear. Like when a lion growls, we can hear that. But what we can't hear is the infrasound that goes along with it. Other animals can sense it. And the crazy thing about infrasound is that it travels a really long distance, and it can also be used to incapacitate prey, which I think is extra super cool.
It can be used to incapacitate prey?
Yes. You can make a noise that's loud enough that it will disorient prey, or it can stop them in their tracks. As a matter of fact, our government has used infrasound before. and the military has practiced with infrasound. And basically, you pump these sounds into people, and you can create nausea. You can do all sorts of cool things with it.
Huh.
Which you shouldn't do.
You
Very,
can make
very
it for
nasty.
us to hear it or no?
Yeah. Yeah. We're not saying that you should go out there and hurt people with sound.
Exactly.
All right. So Bonfire Banter is not about that.
Definitely not.
I know of one investigator in Montana that actually has a setup for recording infrasound, and he's been working on a project on that for a couple of years now.
So they can like change it so that we can.
Not so much that you can hear it, but he'll be able to record it and play it back. You still won't hear it because it's still a frequency that's below the human threshold for hearing, but you'll be able to watch it on a spectrogram. You'll be able to see, like, let's say that he records deer in a field on a video camera at the same time as recording his infrasound, and the deer come to a dead stop. He'll be able to go to another field with deer, play that back, and as long as he can play that frequency low enough, be able to make the deer in that field stop. So just like Jim was saying with incapacitating prey.
One of the things that we used to do in Hillsdale, Michigan, is we found a way. We were using vinyl, which is cool, by the way, and we had a record that had ocean sounds on a beach, and so waves hitting a beach creates infrasound just naturally. And then with it, there were humpback whale sounds, and humpback whales create infrasound also. And they were these crazy sound tech gurus. And we used to pump infrasound into the woods just to see what would happen. And I will tell you, dogs do not appreciate infrasound. The neighborhood dogs, it wasn't pleasant when we do this. And so we had to limit whenever we did it. But what we actually got, which is really kind of weird, is one day we got a recording of something making whale-like sounds back to us. And I've got a recording of it. It's just uncanny because there aren't a lot of whales in Southeast Michigan. There just aren't.
Yeah, not a ton there. They're pretty scarce, from what I've heard. So, some of the audio recordings you sent me, we do have available to play those, the howls. But did you get those on your own? You were out in the woods and you heard that?
It depends on the vocal. Sometimes they get sent to me. And sometimes they're ones that I have long duration recorders set out. And so there were places where I would be recording 24/7, just constantly. And then I had people who would then download it and email it to me, and then I would go through it, which was extraordinarily time consuming. But and so every once in a while you get something that's kind of cool. And sometimes people send you things that are cool. But the best things are when, like, either I'm walking in the woods and I stumble on something, or like I'm walking over here and I leave my recorder over here and the recorder over here picks up something. Those are the cool ones, you know?
Yeah.
And when you actually hear something, because the crazy thing about when you hear things out in the woods is you hear it and it's unbelievably clear, and it's usually unbelievably scary. And I don't mind. I get scared in the woods all the time. It's part of what I do. But the issue is you hear this thing and it's horrible. And you're like, I'm going to die. And then you listen to it on the recorder and it just doesn't do it justice. Because I don't know if you guys have ever really you fire up Metallica and you just feel it like that. I've felt that before with something growling at me, and it was unpleasant.
Yeah. So where were you at when you heard that growling?
That one was on the northwest part of Isabella County, just north of the reservation.
And then what state? Michigan?
Michigan, yeah, in Michigan.
Okay, all this is in Michigan that you.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, I just want to clarify so we know where we're at. But
across the lake.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then you are the head of the BFRO on the UP chapter, or explain that a little bit.
Riches.
You're the head of the Michigan chapter, though.
Of Michigan. Okay. Rich is the head of the UP.
Of the UP, yeah. Me, oh me, I'm just me. So
I'm trying to keep everyone straight here. Yeah,
it's all good. I don't know how I got on this. It's crazy.
Yeah, you stumbled upon. You almost didn't. So
I know.
we're very
Seriously,
lucky.
I honestly thought you guys are just like, it's really not that interesting, and you're like, sure,
Yeah.
we'll send you a link.
Yeah. Keep waiting. Keep waiting. It'll come.
That's what I was thinking. And then I looked, and I'm like, yeah, Rich is here. Come on.
Come on.
Well, good thing you gave us a nice email.
Yeah.
Get out.
There's not a lot of letters at the end.
It's like the most complicated email
Dots
address
and
ever.
everything. Yeah. I was like, apparently it's a defense mechanism for me as well. So.
So you and Rich do know each other, though? You guys hang out?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we work closely together.
Yeah.
Go squatching.
Yeah.
I love squatching with that gnome. He's awesome. Seriously.
We may have done a few expeditions together where people have been lost and we had to pull them back out of the swamp. So
Yes.
Wow.
It's really a tragedy when people get lost. I don't know how that could
Nothing to say
possibly ever
about that.
happen with
Okay,
modern day
this is you?
GPS.
Oh,
Is this you,
Pulled them out of
Kevin?
the.
yes.
Was you?
Yes, I humbly have a story that it was my first time squatching with these two. I ended up coming away from one of these expeditions with a nickname of Lost Boy, and not too proud of how I got it, but I will say that the experience that I had was something that solidified my belief in something else.
Okay.
So,
And GPS.
Vampires?
How did you get lost?
GPS is funny you ask.
Come on.
So I'll
Give us
just,
the juice
I'll
here,
just
Kevin.
start from the beginning here.
Yeah.
So when I was a young kid, my grandma grew up in Kentucky, and she always talked about wood boogers, and I was always thought she was referring to like the boogeyman or something like that.
Okay.
But as I got a little bit older and hearing about wood boogers, I realized, hey, she's not talking about the boogeyman. She's talking about Bigfoot, Sasquatch.
Yeah.
And so that kind of piqued my interest. And then just like Rich was saying, there was a TV show that came on, Finding Bigfoot, with some people that we're familiar with that kind of piqued my interest. And, I'm a military guy. I like being outdoors. And I thought, well, maybe there's something to this. Maybe I want to look a little bit more into this. And so I saw that the BFRO was having an expedition in the UP, and I'm like, hey, that's not that far away, you know, just, like driving up to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So my brother-in-law go up there, and, my brother-in-law, really cool guy, he's into this stuff as well. But I kind of took more of a skeptic approach to it, but wanting to go out and find my own
You're open.
my own ways. And so, before we went up there, I started researching BFRO, and Jim Sherman actually popped up, and he had so many of these videos, Jim, of yours about what kind of equipment to take out in the field, the types of sounds you've been hearing. And I'm like, you know what? Sounds are some sort of credible evidence that I think is tangible. So I want to go out there and have an experience as well. So we gear up, we bring our kayaks, and we go to like a little remote campsite off of the Fox River, just north of Durham. And the Fox River's behind us, and our campsite's right there. But we're driving up from Chicago. And so me and my brother-in-law, Paul, the whole way up, we're listening to like Mysterious Universe podcast. We're listening to Sasquatch Chronicles. We're listening to Jim's sounds, and we're talking about Sasquatch up there. So we've got Sasquatch on the mind. When we get up there, it's dark. So we have to set up our camp in the dark.
Okay.
And our first time in the UP, we realized how dark the UP really is. And then also the mosquitoes are horrendous. So when we set up camp and we're finished, we're tired. We just drove from Chicago all the way up here, and we're going to go to bed. But I will tell you, every noise that we heard that night, we're like, that's got to be Sasquatch. That's got to be Sasquatch. Oh, we hear it's Sasquatch. When in reality, it probably wasn't, but we had Sasquatch on the mind. So that night, we had got maybe a couple of hours of sleep, and the river behind us, you could hear the flow of the river. And in the middle of the night, we hear this, what had to have sounded like a big rock or a boulder get like tossed into the river, like a sound like that. And we were both alert at this time, and we were just listening, and it happened one more time about 3 seconds later. And the river was kind of down like a bank, so we were at the higher ground, and so we thought, well, could it have been an animal trying to like jump across the river or something along those lines? But we didn't hear any other sounds that accompanied it. It just sounded like a big boulder being thrown into the water. So the next morning, we were excited because we thought, hey, maybe there's footprints around our campsite. And so we get up, and it's early, and we're looking around. We're not really finding anything. And then we find something that might be a footprint or whatnot. And we call Caroline, who is also with us for the BFRO. And we said, hey, listen, we're up at the satellite camp. This might be a footprint outside. We don't know. Is there anybody that could come take a look at it? And Caroline said that Jim Sherman was the guy that was running the expedition, and he's pretty knowledgeable when it comes to prints and stuff that we have there. But he was at another campsite south of us from a distance. So they said that they'd come up and take a look at it. But we were so excited. We're like, listen, it was right in the river there. We've got kayaks. We want to get in the river and maybe look around the banks and see if we could find some footprints. So the expedition, a lot of the people were going to, I think it was called Big Cedar Campground, right outside of Germfasken, right outside of Seany Wildlife Refuge up in the UP. And so somebody that came and originally started looking at this track it wasn't Jim. It was more of a local. I don't know who exactly it was, but they're like, yeah, Big Cedar Campground. Yeah, you just go down, you get in the river, you go about 2 hours downstream, and you'll be right at the Big Cedar Campground where everybody's at. And we're like, you know what? Perfect. While Jim's making his way up to look at this potential track or whatnot, we're going to put the kayaks in. We're going to go downstream a couple of hours, look at the bank, and you know, hey, we'll be in base camp in no time at all. And one thing that I can tell you is that I was not prepared at all. Not prepared for the wilderness of Michigan whatsoever. And I'm embarrassed because in the military, I've been through training. I went through Sears training and living out in the wild for a couple of weeks at a time. And, you know, here I am with this, you know, I know what I'm doing. So we had probably 2 bottles of water and 2 granola bars between the two of us. And when we put the kayaks in, probably the first maybe 50 yards of this river was fine. But as we kept going further downstream, this river was just like overgrown. We had like trees that had fallen over the river. There was just branches everywhere. It was really hard to navigate and keep going. There were points where an entire tree would block the river. We'd have to climb out of our kayak onto the trees, pull our kayaks from one side of the tree to the other, get in it, and then manage to like get through all these branches. And so 2 hours has gone past already, and we still haven't gotten anywhere where I think is near a base camp. But hey, this guy said it's only 2 hours, so it can't be much further. Let's just keep going. So we kept going, and we're getting to a point where now it's lunchtime. Lunch is past. Now it's like afternoon time. You know, that has passed. And now it's starting to get like where it's the afternoon. And we're kind of like in a panic, like, well, how much further do we have to go?
Yeah.
I mean, are we going to be spending the night out here? And throughout this trip, there was a sandbar at one point that we came across where it looked like somebody had stepped into part of a sandbar and then part of the water. We saw it and we thought it looked like it was a fresh crack because as the water was hitting it, it started washing it away. So that piqued our interest a little bit. We're like, okay, we found something that might be it. We're gonna continue on this long day and hoping eventually we'll get to this base camp.
Is there a fork in the river?
I'll get to that.
Okay.
So is because I was not prepared. We didn't have a compass. We didn't have GPS. You know, stupid me. But here we are, lost in the middle of the UP. And I kept telling myself, okay, I know that directly to the west of us, I don't know how many miles is Germfast. And there's the main road. I don't know if it's 41. I forget the main road that goes through Germfast right through Steeny. But I'm like, okay, if I'm heading south, I know to my west, it's somewhere is a main road.
Yeah.
So my theory was, okay, whenever it branched off this river, we're just going to keep staying to the right. Keep staying to the right. Hopefully keep going downstream. So now the sun's coming down. And it's twilight. And my brother-in-law and I, we're physically exhausted.
Yeah.
We've been going through this overgrown river, going through branches. At one point, he actually fell out of his kayak, and he had to just sit there in the water for a minute to recoup. Gets back in. He's soaking wet. Now, mind you, for some reason, I decided to wear my ghillie suit.
Makes everything easier.
And I think he was wearing camouflage or whatnot. But here it is. It's getting dark, and I'm like, Paul, we're lost. I don't know what to do. I mean, I don't know what to do. And I remember hearing that, and I'm not an avid hunter. I don't really, but I remember hearing that a hunter, when they're lost, will shoot the rifle in the air 3 times. And I don't know if that's true or not. So,
yeah.
So under that thought, I'm like, okay, you know what I can do? I know how to whistle really loud. I'm going to do 3 loud, short bursts, loud as I can. Loud as I can. Maybe somebody will hear us. Maybe we'll hear cars, something. And it was kind of like a last-ditch effort. And here I go. I get it, and I whistle 3. I whistled once, twice, and then as soon as my 3rd one ended, we heard this noise that kind of like what Jim was saying, is it was like, it went like that. And it scared the shit out of me. Excuse my language.
Oh, you're good.
Literally, at that moment when we heard that noise, it wasn't just a noise that you hear.
And you were in the water still at this point?
We were in our kayaks.
Yeah.
And probably the bank of the river is maybe 20 feet.
Yeah.
And it went up a little bit too. But there's vegetation all around us, so it made things hard to see.
Yeah.
But what Jim was talking about, kind of like infrasound, or just how you can feel a noise. Yeah. That's how it felt, and we heard it. And I always tell people, from a little kid, when you hear noises, you could say, what does a dog sound like?
Yeah.
You know what a cat sounds like, a goat, a sheep, cow, whatever it may be. This noise that we heard sounded identical to a gorilla. And it scared the crap out of us, and we felt it, and we couldn't see it. So we were scared instantly, and we looked at each other, and we're like, did you hear that? He's like, did you hear that? And at one point, Paul got so scared that he starts yelling, who is that? Who's out there? And we're like, Paul, let's just get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
So we just start paddling our kayak through the river, and it's getting dark now. And we're still lost in the middle of the UP on this river. And then we come to a fork in the river. It's like a T.
I kayak by myself, that's why, yeah.
You could either go right, or you could either go left. And it's dark, and we're scared as heck. We've seen a footprint. We don't know what it was, but it looked like a footprint. So we saw the size of this. And then we hear this noise, and we're scared. So we want to just get out of here. So when we came to this fork in the road, though, in the middle, there was a sign that said, no hunting, trespassers, no trespass, no hunting. So we thought, okay, listen, at least there might be something up here. So we are going to ditch our kayak right here, and we're going to get up on this little 2-track path, follow it to wherever, because we got to go. So at this point,
and it's dark already.
And it's dark.
Oh yeah.
At this point, we're just ditching the kayak. Screw them. we will never see these kayaks again. Whatever. We got to get out of these woods.
Were they right inside of or right on top of?
What's that? They were right inside.
Oh yeah, good. Because
Yeah.
I've gone through trees. I would not want to do it on right on top.
Yeah, no, that would have been horrible. But so we get to these 2 tracks and we try to follow it, and we're following. It wasn't that long of a distance, but we got to a road, and we got to this road. It's dark. There's no cars. It's in the middle of the UP. So we're like, okay, well, let's just start walking that way and see what we could
Back to where you
do.
came, or
We don't know. And the thing was, it was a dark out, and so.
And you were wearing a ghillie suit.
And I was wearing a so I didn't know what direction we were going at that point, but we followed the road. We're like, listen, a road is a good sign. At least let's just start walking out of here. So finally, in the distance, a pickup truck of all things, comes down the road, and here we are hitchhiking. And the guy pulls over, and we're like, listen, we are lost. We were in our kayaks, and we put in our kayaks up at, the Fox River campsite up there.
Yeah.
And now here we are. Where are we? And he's like, man, you're about 30-something miles away from where you put in your kayaks. We were like, we've been on the water all day, over 8-9 hours. Can you please just drive us back there? And I don't know what that guy was thinking, because yes, I was in a ghillie suit.
Yeah.
He was in his camouflage, and he finally got us there. And when we got there, we were able to call Caroline and Jim and Rich and kind of tell them what happened and be like, hey, we're coming to the party late. So the very next morning, we get to base camp finally, and I don't know who it was, but God bless their soul, they helped us navigate back to the area in which we dumped our kayaks, and we were able to find our kayaks eventually. But we told our story, and from that day forth, I've been given the nickname Lost Boy.
Lost Boy.
I will tell you, if you are a skeptic and you have an incident like this happen, it changed. So, and that is what just got me hooked. I've been communicating ever since.
Yeah, that's pretty hilarious, and I like that these guys were able to make sure that you had to explain that and talk about your embarrassing story on our show.
Now,
Fantastic.
in Kevin's defense, he was never lost. He knew exactly where he was. He just didn't know where we were.
Yeah, he was on a river.
Somewhere in the middle of the UP in the dark.
He also, whoever gave him his directions, gave him horrible directions, because he was on the Fox River, and the Big Cedar Campground is on the Manistee River. The Fox River comes down into what we call spreads, which is it almost dead ends and then goes to about 3-4 inches of water, and then collects back together in the Manistee River. So
it did. There were
he didn't get lost on his own. Somebody helped him a lot.
You're lucky to hit it. The world across the kayak.
Yeah.
And I didn't really. That thing knocked me there.
Well,
I had to get my kayak and then drag it out, and then by the time you drag it to the shore, you're so tired. You pull the plugs, and you just have to sit.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing about the Fox River up there too, is like there were submerged trees and branches that were underneath that you could barely see.
Yeah.
So luckily, our kayaks were plastic, like the hard plastic.
Yeah.
And they were pretty durable. But I don't know if you guys remember, when we put them into the water, they were camouflaged. We painted them camouflage.
Oh my God.
By the time
I
we picked
still
them
have
back up,
pictures. I have before and after pictures.
by the time we picked them up, they were yellow again.
Yeah.
So like we had been through it, and it was pretty rough terrain.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, like I love the nickname. I do. But it was a hard lesson learned.
Yeah.
In going forward, I can't stress GPS or at least a compass.
Yeah.
And hey, get some food too, because we thought we were going to be ditching the kayaks and sleeping under them at night.
Yes. Yeah. That's
That's why I always see the stars during night.
Yeah.
Navigate.
Well,
So in the UP, it is super dark. The stars are great out there. When
if you got the
clear
moon
night.
out, it's not that bad, but
the canopy of the trees,
Yeah.
it's
And you
pitch
can't
black.
see the direct
Yeah.
No, yeah. Yeah, you're in bad shape.
From a couple of city boys too, coming up from Chicago and never really immersing themselves in a wild like this.
Yeah.
It was quite the experience and eye opener. I mean, because you know, it is, even though it's a funny thing, people get lost.
Yeah.
People seriously get injured and hurt.
Yeah.
And in hindsight,
Very
we'll
dangerous.
never do that again.
Yeah, yeah. So, Jim, when you guys go out on some of these expeditions, how many people do you normally go with? Try to keep it small, big? What do you do?
It depends. If we go on an expedition, like we could have a couple. My goodness, what would you say? Like maybe 30 some people, Rich? Occasionally.
30?
I think the expedition that Kevin was on, actually, we had 50 at that
Yeah,
one.
because there were a ton of people. And
Wow.
Because
what's
we had people up at the Fox River campground, we had people at Mead, and we had Cedar full.
yeah,
So
you're
I
right.
think- I think we were 50 or 60 on that one, and we've done them as small as 3 or 4 people.
Right.
Okay.
One of the things that you want to do is in a situation like that, if you got a ton of people, you might as well use them. And so you spread out and you go
Okay.
all different types of areas. And pretty much 100% of the time where I'm at, nothing is going to happen. And so, people are like, let's just not go with Jim. It's like, okay, thanks. But
I got a story about the first time I actually met Jim Sherman.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to cut you off there, Jim.
oh no,
but
please.
So after our long excursion out there and finally coming to meet Jim Sherman, we were going to go out in a night expedition. And this is, I think, the night after Paul and I had our experience, and it scared the shit out of us. So I had a 9mm Beretta that I kept loaded and strapped because honestly, hey man, I don't know what the heck that was.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't want to be surprised.
With the 9mm, you're
again.
just going to piss it off, though, I think, right?
Probably. So we go out on this. We go out. We get ready, and here I come going up to shake Jim's hand and be like, "Hey, Jim, I'm Kevin." He's like, "Are you strapped?"
Exactly what I said.
I came from Chicago.
I'm like,
Are you strapped? Must be from Chicago, huh?
I'm like, "Yeah, I'm strapped." He's like, "You can't have that out here. There's a safety decision. No, you can't do that." I'm like, all right. I guess I'll go put it in the car, but I'm staying right next to you, Jim.
Yeah. Well, I haven't heard from Rob here in a second. Rob, do you got anything planned in the future? What's the next expedition you're going on? And is it going to be for Bigfoot, or is it going to be for some ghost stuff, or what do you got? You got anything planned?
Well, I just got with our guys. In fact, we had a little get together tonight, and we're looking at going out on the 8th, and then we're gonna get with some other Bigfoot groups, and we're gonna try all get together, and we're gonna hit different set up our camps in different areas, and we're just gonna branch off, and keeping communication with each other. I mean, we're all gonna be in the Green Swamp, but just at different parts of the Green Swamp, and just try to do one massive walkthrough at different parts of the area, and down the Florida Trail, and just see what happens.
I got a question. So have you heard of offering Bigfoot, like have property or whatnot, and have had an experience, and then you leave something for them that obviously no other animal can open up, like a jar of fruit or whatnot? And then I've seen, researching it, that they'll like weave twigs together or whatever in a circle, leave it there, and then the jar is either open, empty, and or gone. But have you heard about that at all, or what are your thoughts on it?
I've left out, like candy bars and apples and, peanut butter. I've never put it in jars and stuff. I just kind of leave it there. And of course, I point trail cameras and stuff on it. And, but no, I've never left any jars. That's an interesting theory. I think I might try that.
Yeah, I just saw that
Pretty cool.
last night, actually. Les Stroud, he has a show called Survivor Man.
Oh, he
And,
was just talking about
yeah,
that.
and he did a 2-parter of it, and
Yeah.
then it is.
Yeah.
And I mean, that guy's pretty credible in my.
Yeah.
But yeah, leaving a jar is pretty smart because
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a grizzly bear, it's gonna smash it,
Yeah.
or a cougar or whatever. but when it's open,
Yeah.
it's a different story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something that has to use dexterity to open it
Yeah.
up. It's not chewed open.
Yeah, it's not broken.
Yeah, one of the things that we used to try is we would put, because we used to, one of the areas that I used to research, there were a bunch of deer roadkill. And we would take the bones, big femur bones, and set them out in patterns just for giggles. And every once in a while, they would be moved. Now, dogs will move them, porcupines will move them, things like that. Completely natural. But the ones that were weird is when we'd put them in just a weird, like a geometric pattern, and they would be moved into something that could possibly be a geometric pattern, like kind of like X's and things like that, just on the
Like
ground.
something intelligent in it.
And it kind of looked intelligent. I'm super skeptical about everything, but at one point, what we did is we took an X, we copied basically what we had seen, and we put a camera and we hit it, and the camera only took pictures like once every, I forget, like 6 seconds or something like that. And we were trying all sorts of weird things. Well, we actually picked up at one point, something had taken a bone from a different area, like the X was still on the ground, and there was a bone in the air that we took a picture of. Like something had thrown a bone, which is just weird. Like the reason that that's strange, because it was obviously a bone and we went and found it, because animals are not going to throw bones. There's just no reason to do that. And so it would have had to have been a neighbor or ghost. I mean, it really was odd. And that's the stuff that's fascinating to me when I can't figure it out, you know?
We got to cut you off for a second. We just got our director wanted to walk around in the back with a ghillie suit on to give us a nice little thing, and lit himself on fire
Right there.
on accident. So I had to run off screen and just go rip it off of him because he was on fire.
Your nose.
Was any of it on film?
Listen. Jesus. So just yanking it.
Stop. No, I said that's stop, drop, and roll. Yeah.
You were, oh my God. No, I was yanking.
Like,
Oh my God.
we got a new fire guy.
We didn't start keeping it fire extinguisher around here. I think we were a little. Woo!
What are the fire blankets?
Put the ghillie suit on. You see it get on camera?
So you guys, what you get to look forward to when you come down to Chicago?
A 9mm
We
and catch
really,
on fire.
yeah, we really taken all the stops here.
So Jim, you were actually you and Rich were actually on an episode of Finding Bigfoot. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
That's a Discovery Channel,
What?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, one guy.
Want us to
Does a
talk
pretty good job
after
sounding
like
like
there
him.
was flames? We can't talk after there
No, he
was
was on fire.
flames. We're
Yeah,
going to be horribly boring in comparison.
Just like our eating girls.
Here, I'm going to go get a lighter. I'll be right back.
All right, hold on. Before we go into Finding Bigfoot, you guys had asked about people using jars. I don't know
Yes.
how well you can see this.
Yeah.
Oh, that is cool.
This
What
is
is
a
that?
cast
Looks like
called the
a-
Nutella Fingers that I picked up from Cliff Barrickman. And what it is,
Awesome.
is I believe it was Tom Shea and his group down in Kentucky that took a jar of Nutella, threw it in the bottom of a 6-inch piece of PVC with sandpaper around the edges. So if it reached in, it'd pull the hair
grabs it.
to get DNA.
Mm.
In real life, you can see that there's 3 fingers. This would be the top of the jar. So it's sitting like this.
Yeah.
And so
Where something reached in to pull the Nutella out. Now, the
Wow,
interesting thing
awesome.
about
That is
that,
amazing. Speaking of hair, maybe you guys will know. I think it was the first time, one of the first calls up in Minnesota or something. This guy called the cops that there was something outside. They showed up. They shot it once, screamed. All right, and then they had run through a barbed wire fence and left. DNA tested. Went to the lab. Couldn't find it. They sent it to the FBI, and conveniently, the sample was gone.
Yeah. That's wild. I still can't get it. I keep trying to hold back my laughter.
I didn't know if that was part of the show or not.
I've never seen Justin run that fast.
I'm struggling right now to not just be laughing.
I just did my
guys gotta tell me you're
Michael
doing this
Jackson impression there.
He just caught his hair a tiny bit, man. You were on.
I think you caught your nose a little bit. Looks
You know what it
The
was?
Human Torch was a United Bank loan.
You know, I just looked at it. The suit actually isn't burnt at all.
you got
You know what it
excited
was?
to
It was like you ever
spontaneously
light your
combust.
sock?
Yeah.
And like the little embers,
You're
like
just
kind of
sitting here like,
that's what
oh,
it
he's on
was.
fire.
It's like-
Cool. Great host, ladies and gentlemen. You know, here he is.
Go into the show. You were on the about being in the episode.
Yeah, sorry, Jim. I know it's a hard act to follow, but could you guys tell us a little bit about your experience with the television show Finding Bigfoot?
Well, one of the things that you need to know whenever you do a TV show is they're not going to pay you. Just know that. Everything you do is for the glory of being on television, apparently. But you'll be lucky if you get gas money. But I will tell you that one of the things that I appreciated with that particular show is that Renee was super cool, and Cliff is still like really a good guy. Matt's Matt. Bobo I didn't have as much interaction with because he wasn't feeling well most of the time when we were working with him. But still a good guy. But basically what our job was to put the crew in an area that they could maneuver and that might have some kind of activity. And when we were near Houghton Lake, we actually got some activity, which is really weird. And it happened like the night that we were scouting to put the team out there, but we got it all on audio. And we got like there was I did a knock just for fun, and we got a whoop from the woods in return, which is just odd, and it's not supposed to happen. But yeah, and our job was to basically look for some kind of local coolness, pasties and stuff like that, and cool things that they could do, and some local lore, and then kind of find a place where we could have a town hall meeting, and then we brought witnesses there. That was our job, to bring credible witnesses there, so that in both of the episodes, so that the show could be interesting and people would be excited, because people liked the town hall. It's fun to hear people tell their stories, and it was cool in the near Houghton Lake to have some audio played, which I've always pushed for audio, because audio it's fun to hear on TV. It's just fun to listen to. And then when we were up in the UP, I was tricked into actually being on the show. I was not supposed to be on the show. The guy that was going to be like the headline dude bailed at the last minute. And so I found out 5 minutes before we were going on that I was actually going to be talking and in front of people and looking like an idiot talking about Bigfoot in front of people, but you know, whatever. So.
Yeah, just nothing like the last second. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably actually better because I had less chance to be nervous and stuff like that.
I was gonna say you probably didn't overthink it then, obviously, either.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was gonna get to that actually. Rob, can you pull up the those audio files that he sent us and put them into the mic so we could hear some of those?
Hey, and Jim, if you could just talk us through some of these sounds, like where you were, how you recorded them, or how you obtained them.
Yeah. All right, let's see if we could get Rob over there, how fast he can pull up this thing. His fingers are a little burned, so it's not reading his fingerprint anymore.
Yeah. This one is Singing Howls.
Okay. Put it up next to that pretty good. Like. Right, hang on. Difficulty. What are you trying to turn it on?
Try it again.
Okay, please.
I can play it.
No?
Hey, It may work better if you play them, Jim.
You never know.
Yeah, Jim, do you got him? You can play him?
Yeah, he's got a sound system there or whatever, you know.
Let me see.
You got anything you can play for us there, and then we could hear it coming through the Zoom?
Yep. Hold up.
All right.
All right, cool. Yeah, we'll go that route. But
I've never seen you move so fast, man.
dude, I was Johnny on the spot. Saw my friend roasted. He looked like
Bigfoot, like
a rotisserie over there. And at first, when you guys he lit on fire and you guys were looking over there, I thought you were reacting to him being Bigfoot. Like,
no, he was on fire. I was just like, well, you're definitely closer. I'm not gonna catch on fire.
On the last show, but I thought you guys went all out on
If I try to go over there, I'm gonna light up too. I'm covered in grease,
Human
like-
torch. That was great. Fantastic stuff.
Jim, you've got a YouTube channel that people can listen to some of these sounds, is that right?
I don't know if we lost him here. Let's see. So with us, Jim.
If anyone's interested in listening, my YouTube channel is Lord Cryptid, LORDCRYPTID. I didn't name myself. Actually, my students named me that. It sounds really weird to be called Lord Cryptid, but that's my YouTube channel. So you can find Bigfoot stuff. There's a lot of Bigfoot stuff. There's a lot of Jeep stuff too. So you have to filter through.
Here, let
that.
me try something real fast.
Maybe some gun stuff too, but
Can you guys hear that okay, Jim?
yes, I can hear that.
Yeah.
That was one I just had come through off my that hair. That's pretty eerie sounding. I mean,
Can you
that's
imagine being in the dark woods and like you hear
these
that?
howls. Yeah.
Or like that long one that they do, a little deeper than that.
Jim, where did you get those howls from?
Some like that one, like there's a couple ones. One is like a howl and a shriek, and then another one is the singing howls. And the reason that the singing howls is such a cool thing, I got that one also in Central Michigan. And that was one that happened right after it was 12:13. I just happened to remember the time because I looked and I'm like, okay, it's time to leave. And I was leaving this farm. And so I clicked off this recorder. I just turned it off because I'm stupid. And I was heading into my car and I turned around to say something and got hit with that growl that shook my chest. And it was one of those holy crap kind of moments. And the ladies that were with me, they were just in shock also. One of them said, "Where's the gun?" And I'm just like, you know, and the crazy part about it was that I quickly turned on my recorder. I was super angry at myself for missing that amazing vocal, but then they kept going. And whatever it was that was doing it was one, there were two of whatever they were, because one would be over here and the one that growled backed off. And then it made that sing-songy kind of thing. And I can't figure out what made that noise. I still can't figure it out because it's not a loon, it's not an elk. It made that. And then there was one further away that made a similar sound. And then what it appeared as if they were doing was they were almost like echolocating each other. And one would do this, then the other would do this. And they would howl to each other as they were leaving the area. Because you could tell they were leaving because they were getting quieter and they were moving in a different direction. And I knew the area, I knew exactly where they were walking to, and it was just freaky. And I had to go out into those woods to pick up my other recorder. And luckily, I had the other recorder going all night. And so I was able to capture most of it. And I was able to capture some that I couldn't hear because the recorder was in the middle of a field. But it was just odd because even when I was driving home, I'm listening like this, you know, I'm just like driving, and most of it is just super quiet. And then all of a sudden you get this moan howl, and I captured a couple of wood knocks and a moan howl. It was just weird stuff. And the thing is, when you put a recorder out in a field and you just leave it, you're not out there. And so there's not as great a likelihood that someone is going to be hoaxing you. Now, there is, of course, a chance because of the popularity of finding Bigfoot back then and stuff like that you might come across someone who is howling just randomly in the woods, but it's less likely. And so I always think, what is the obvious reason? It's kind of an Occam's razor type of thing. What is the obvious cause of this noise? Person. Okay. Can a person produce the volume that I heard? Not without mechanical enhancement. Okay. So, and then you start thinking about all this weird stuff. And it's just, it's when you hear it and you're out there and it's dark, it's a lot more intense than even when you're like, you've got your headphones on and you're listening and stuff like that. It just doesn't equal it. And so even the audio that I sent you guys is interesting, but imagine hearing that if you're in a kayak 34 miles away from base camp. You know, it's just
in the dark.
Yeah,
in the dark
with a granola bar and a bottle of water.
it's
Hey, Jim, you know Ron Moorhead's the Sierra Sound.
Yeah.
What do you think about those?
You know what? The Sierra Sounds have always been fascinating to me. There are people obviously that are always going to debunk them, but what I will tell you is that I have played the Sierra Sounds, I've call blasted them, and when you call blast them into the woods, lots of times things happen. Now, sometimes you'll freak out bear or normal animals because they're really freaky, but I have been with other people and blasted the Sierra Sounds and had some creepy stuff happen. And even on my first expedition, which was near Luzerne, in Michigan, and that Michigan. There you go. And thought I'd help you out. And we played the Sierra Sounds, and then there was a person there who was a what do you call a person, like an empath or someone who feels ghosts and stuff like that? Not pornographically, but like feels ghosts and stuff like that.
That's an empath.
Thank you, an empath. So we had an empath there. I mean, ghost pornography. Where is this going? But
only on Bonfire Band.
Yeah,
but the weird thing was, she was feeling weird stuff. We had something that was pacing along, paralleling with us, and one of us got hit with a rock. It wasn't me. And then something played in our, this is the creepy, gross part, something played in our latrine, and we had dumped vinaigrette, like cucumbers in it, because someone didn't eat cucumber vinaigrette at the luncheon because it's cucumber vinaigrette. So someone dumped that in the pooper, and something played with it, but whatever it was that played with it was paralleling us, because I could smell it. Because I'm like, what? Why does it smell like poo and vinaigrette? And then we found out something had been playing in the pooper. And so I noticed I cleaned up my language because I'm an educator. But it was just like, you got to be kidding me. Because now a bear will do that. But usually bear do not parallel when you're walking. Bear don't like to hang out with people for the most part. But something that had played in that was following us, and it was after we played the Sierra Sounds. So all I can say about that is, if they were real, that was one heck of a capture.
Yeah,
so
because it scares things out there.
Were recorded in the Sierra Nevadas by Ron Moorhead, I believe in the 70s. I don't know exactly when or how it came about, but the recordings are they're very interesting. The beginning of these sounds almost sound like a combination of the Muppets meets the Simpsons, and it's really fast, like an old Japanese movie, almost like a chatter.
Yeah, that's why they call it the samurai chatter.
Them?
Yeah.
What's that, Jim?
They actually call that part the samurai chatter, because it goes like that.
And that's what it sounded like.
And what is that? You're eliciting a reaction from that? Is that the point?
This is Ron Moorhead a researcher out in Sierra Nevada
Yeah.
doing what Bigfoot researchers do, and he recorded these sounds that sounded almost identical to what Jim just
okay.
sounded.
He recorded those, and then you're playing them out in the woods,
Yeah,
just because. Okay, it's like communicating with them, trying to get them to have some kind of reaction.
right.
Sounds,
When you listen to the sounds that Ramor had, their length, they're not like just a few seconds here or
Okay.
there. It almost sounds like there's a communicating group, almost like they're communicating back.
Kind of like the sound Zoidberg made.
Yeah.
That's a good impression. I like that.
Would you guys agree with that?
Rob, what do you know about these Sierra sounds?
Yeah, Rob, what about you?
Looks like he disappeared.
Uh-oh.
Is he gone?
Okay.
Well, might have dropped. Maybe he got home from Tampa and he had
Yeah.
to go inside. Got bored. But yeah, so then I'll shoot you then, Rich. What do you what's your experience with these? Have you messed around with these Sierra sounds as well?
Every time that I've been able to get any kind, every time we played them, we either get absolutely nothing, or we get what feels like an aggressive response to them. I've had other people up here that run the truck trails and Jeep runs that have been out and on different truck trails. They're like, yeah, we heard like two old guys in the woods gibberish back and forth with each other. So they've heard it in the area. It's not something that, like I said, we have a lot of experience with.
And yeah, I'd say that the Sierra sounds are an aggressive sound that
It's like Bigfoot maybe talking shit to his buddies.
possibly
you know?
laying the smack down.
You're in his turf.
Yeah, exactly.
Like an old one yelling at a young one, maybe.
Yeah.
There you go. Someone getting scolded, potentially.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So then, Rich, what do you got? You got anything on the horizon as far as some expedition stuff? You going out anytime soon with this?
Or have you guys ever seen them uproot trees and put them in upside down? Did you guys talk about that yet? Or?
We haven't talked about that, but that's a very interesting too about tree snaps, tree bends, tree
Forts,
formations.
and there's no way a person can move those.
Are they saying arches is a common
They
thing with these?
like put tree things like a kid's building a fort, but they're bigger than these. Just like
The really crazy ones, like you mentioned, are the ones like the inverted trees that are shown.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Now, just so you know, lumberjacks, if you see an old one, lumberjacks used to do that just for fun. But if you see one of those, it's just it's something odd.
Or the
and I
tree
have
snap-
seen them. Only once. But,
have you seen the tree snapped up like 12, 13 feet in the air and then twisted?
I've seen I can't say as I've seen one that's that high up. But what I have seen some trees that have been manipulated by something that wasn't wind. I always think it's probably a camper or a kid or a Bigfoot researcher or something like that, because that's where my brain automatically goes. But every once in a while you see something, you're like, I wonder why that's there. Or the one that's weird, which I have seen before too, if you go out in an area, like you get in your Jeep and you drive on this 2-track or something like that, you come back around, sometimes there's going to be a log that goes across. That crap happens. There's this thing called gravity, whatever.
Yeah.
But when you turn around and you see two of them like that, which I have seen before, that's happened to me. That's odd, because that's not supposed to happen. Yeah, you got this big X mark and you're like, oh, I got to get out of the Jeep. And no, you don't get out of the Jeep. You go faster. Jeeps will go through that crap. I'm telling you, because I'm not getting out and looking at it unless, good Lord, no. But no, it's just, it's odd because some things are hard to explain away. I explain away just about everything, but every once in a while you see stuff and you're like, well, that one's a little tougher to explain. So
you guys, you got some of these casts here.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk about these a little bit and where you found these, where you got them from, and.
So yeah, sure. So after the year that I had my experience up in the UP, I was hooked, and I felt that if I can go back to the same locations, doing the same thing, that maybe we could have some sort of results. And so
Rob,
I did go back to part of the Fox River the very next year, and I spent a lot of time on the water going up and down up and down the river, just looking for prints in the bank. And I came across this one bank where I started seeing some of these footprints like this. And I am not saying that any of these are Bigfoot, but what I am saying is where
That's a big ass foot.
yeah, where I found these was pretty far away from where somebody should be barefoot. So we got up. It's about 13 inches by about 5 inches, 5.5 inches.
Okay.
So I've seen bigger, but again, so I saw these prints in this sandbank, and so I went up there, and there was a series of tracks of finding out about 3 different sizes. This was the largest one,
Like a family.
right here, like a family. Here's another one, kind of make out that was up there as well. But where it started getting interesting for me, because this is well within the range of a human being. Okay, so this very well could be a human. I don't know. But I do know that where I found these was a very odd place for someone to be barefoot, but not just a person. In this trackway, I found a couple of other sizes. So like this is more of a medium cast right here, and they were paralleling from the water. It looked like somebody came from the tree line to the water and then back to the tree line. So this was another size cast, but then there's a little bit of a sandbar that goes up into the tree line. So what had happened was when these things were stepping into the sandbar to go back into the tree line, they were making some deep casts. Now, these are the first casts I have ever made, but this time I knew I brought like a big tub of Ultra Cal water so I could do everything right there.
Yeah.
And I didn't have enough casting material to cast everything. So I figured I'm going to try to cast the most prominent ones that I can see and the most interesting. But again, this is a smaller one, but this is still well within the range of a human being. The one that I found most interesting, though.
Wait, hold on, Kevin.
Yeah.
Go back to that other one and hold it just the way you were, because the camera picks it up pretty well. Tip it back toward, and if you tip it back toward you and show us a side profile a little bit, I can see the mid-tarsal break where it's lower in the center across the entire foot, and you've got a hump for the ball and a hump for the heel. You got to kind of rotate from us towards you. There you go.
Oh, like this?
Yeah, I don't know if Robert and Jim can see that.
Get a little close up on the dead boy.
So this wasn't the most interesting one for me, though. The one that was the most interesting, it was this one, because it was the smallest. This one, if you could see how it stepped into the bank going up this way, and this is what the cast produced. So if you got that tape measure, I mean, this is probably about a 6-inch, a 6-inch print by 2.5, 3 inches, and this is one of the ones that I found semi in the tree line, and the sand going in the bar. And I'm a parent. I've got 3 little kids, and there is no way I would let them be barefoot in this area here. Yeah. The other thing too is that there was no sign of anything coming from the water going up like I had. These all tracks came from the woods to the water and back in. So this is the one that I just found interesting. And again, this is well within the scope of a human being. But what did it for me was the location, where they were found. And again, as a parent, I wouldn't let my kid walk around barefoot in this area. So I can't explain this. But again, it just adds to the illusion, and it just makes you, once you get hooked on going squatch, hey, it's a fun thing. It's interesting, but you can really come away with some things that really make you.
Yeah. So is that like a slip into it, like on the?
So it was like a sandbar. It was like a bank.
Oh, okay.
It like stepped into it this way. So all I did is I took a majority of the plaster and just filled that entire hole, and that's what I came out with.
So then, Rich, when you go watching What are some of the, if someone wants to go out, novice guy like me, what do I need to bring? What are some of the stuff you would recommend I bring on my first GPS? I think we've nailed that down.
GPS, extra food,
Fire extinguisher.
fire extinguisher.
You still there?
The biggest things that I tell people is the first thing you have to take is an open mind. Not so open that behind every leaf is a Bigfoot and behind every stick is a Bigfoot, but open enough that you're going to be receptive to the odd things that are out there. A good sense of observation so that you will pick up on the different things that are out there. Like with you guys were asking about the stick structures and tree breaks. So when you see the X's that are made out of completely parallel pieces of a log, so you get the logs that sit like this, but they're the same size on both sides. Not so that you get an X that's like this or an X that's like that, but so that they're the same. So it looks like it was manipulated and put that way for a reason. And then something to write with, a camera, and something for a sense of size. So tape measure, dollar bill, something that is a universal size that once we see your evidence, we can use that as a comparison to start checking sizes.
That's not the old fishing trick when you just zoom in real close to the fish.
Where you hold the fish out in front of you further. Yeah.
Yeah, caught a monster.
Another thing, I just want to add one other little thing with that. Apart from obviously safety materials, let someone know where you're going, when you're going to be back, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But sorry. But another thing is just, again, just a silly recorder. Like, these are super cheap and they're idiot proof, so I can use them. And what you can do with them is you click it on, leave one on the top of your car, and go for a walk. Keep one with you. And the reason you leave one is because sometimes things happen when you're gone. And and that's just kind of cool too. Something like I had something when we were up in the UP, I had this sitting on top of the Jeep. Something walked up and checked the top of the Jeep. And I didn't know that. I heard about it later the next day after it had rained, unfortunately, but because it would have been cool to see if there were footprints. But if you've got something like this and you hear something, then you've got it collected. And that's just one more thing that you can have. I also suggest, if you're good with a regular camera, bring a regular camera also, just because you can do more with it. You can control the and if you're good with it, you can control the focus, because with your regular cell phone, sometimes it's just not going to work. If you're not good with the camera, then it doesn't make any sense. I practice with a camera. Like when I'm driving, if I see a rabbit, I'm trying to take a picture of it. Just, if you're, or a deer while I'm driving, because you're covering a lot of territory, and that's when you're probably going to have some kind of a sighting of some kind of a hairy critter, usually a deer or a possum. But if you practice taking dumb pictures, then you'll be able to do it when you're scared, maybe. I'm sorry, Robert.
Hey, Rob.
Could I chime in?
Yeah, absolutely.
There
please.
he is. All right.
You said night vision, but a FLIR is a good thing to take out with you as well.
A flare?
The FLIR.
Oh yeah.
Thermal imager.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
And I recommend to people too, go onto these sites like eBay and stuff, because there's a lot of people that will buy them and then turn around and want to get rid of them, and you can pay a fraction of the cost versus buying a brand new one. I don't have I have what they call a Seek FLIR.
Yep.
And I like this. It's waterproof. The only thing is, I can take pictures, but I can't take video with it. But it's I got it as a Christmas present, and kind of funny story. When I got it, I wanted to see how well it works. So I had my son. We went outside, and I said, I need you to run down the road and stop every now and then and just start waving your hands. So he went down the street, and he'd stop, wave his hands, and he'd go back. I said, okay, I see. And he kept going. And next thing I know, a police car comes out of nowhere. And he comes up to me and says, I said, what's going on? I said, yeah. He goes, yeah, we got to report some crazy teenager out here. I think he's on drugs. He's running around waving his hands down the road. And then all of a sudden, my son goes, oh, like that. And he goes, you know, and the guy goes, there he is. I said, no, that's my son, you know.
Don't mind him.
One thing I do try, and I do go over in my book is, you know, and, you know, I'm sure Rich and Sherman always can testify, always take some kind of survival equipment with you. Never assume that it's just going to be a day trip, because, you know, you could get lost or something could happen. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm no survival expert, but I mean, I do take stuff with me every time I go out, you know, poncho and, you know, all that survival equipment. I've never had to use it. You know, I've had people that, you know, have gotten lost, and, you know, all they went out there was with a flashlight and a camera, and, you know, lo and behold.
So, Rob, a military man, the expression "better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it."
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, yeah. And you know, if I take, you know, young adults, I've taken some Boy Scouts out, and I always put what they call a safety necklace on them. On the necklace is a little flashlight and a whistle. And I said, at any time you guys get separated, you're to stop what you're doing and start blowing that whistle and turn the light on. And the thing is, if you have a night vision, you know, it picks up all the light out there, and you'll be able to pick these kids up and stuff. But I've never had it happen. The kids I take out there always do what the heck I tell them to. You know, they're actually very, you know, they may have their issues, but they're very disciplined when you go out there and take them out now, walking around the trails and stuff.
Yeah. Hey, Rob, I've seen some pictures of you online with some pretty big casts. Have you gotten some of your own good ones, or is most of what I've seen with those pictures other people's, or what?
No, the one that you see me holding, that was, I got that a couple years ago from a gentleman. He called me and said that he, I'm trying to think a way to tell a story real quick. When he was growing up, in fact, he was from upstate in Chicago or upstate in Illinois, and he would come down for the summer to visit his grandparents, a place called Brooksville, which is north of Tampa. And he met up with this gentleman, a Vietnam vet who had a trailer. And he got to be buddies with the guy, and the guy was growing pot in the back of his yard. So, and one day the guy pulls out these castings and showed it to him. Said, "Hey, I've had this, you know, whatever is going through my yard, it's destroying all my, running through my pot plants, and I can't call the police because, you know, it's pot I'm growing back there." So the guy died, and oddly enough, he made this guy his executor, and he went over to the trailer and he found the prints, and he got a hold of me, and we met up in a gas station outside of Tampa, and he pulled out this looked like an old wooden ammo box, and he pulled out the track, and he had a left foot, but it was all busted up. And I looked at it, I said, holy cow, and he told me the story. And I said, well, can I have it? He said, no, I don't want to give it away. I said, well, can I make a copy of it? And he said, well, how are you going to do that? I said, well, I'm going to go to Home Depot. I'm going to get some foam rubber, and I'm going to make a casting or a shell, and that way I can make a copy of it. So the only thing I'll give you the foam if you just let me have the first casting off of it. And the thing I like about this casting, which I'll grab it.
Yeah, awesome.
Oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
All right, here it is here. And the thing I like about this is there's a lot of, there are some investigators, like I said, say the animal is only 6 foot tall. And does this look like this was made by a 6 foot tall? And I showed this to Cliff Breckman. I showed it to Dr. Muldrum, and they all, in fact, they got a hold of the gentleman to get a copy of the cast as well. And like I said, the detail in it is, you know, and I take this when I go to speak in conferences and stuff. It's one of the ones that most people like to see, you know, other than the, you know, the other prints. I got a copy of this one. I was out with Stacy Brown and his group when we got this one. I was there when they found this one. But Stacy took the prints.
Who do you think they are?
This was taken up near Tallahassee, up on a place. If you ever watched Finding Bigfoot, there's an episode where this family had a print on their a glass door.
Yeah.
Well, we found this out there, and it's an interesting story how it happened. We broke into teams. I decided I wanted to go with this other team to go look at these caves. And we didn't get anything. Well, I got back, and two of the guys, Josh and I forget the other gentleman's name, were by the campfire, and I walked up and Stacy said, "Hey man, you got to come over and listen to the story what happened to Josh." And he was up at the Bridges. That's the name of the family that you saw him finding Bigfoot. And Josh was going on that he had gone out there, and they were walking up to the Bridges house, and all of a sudden the car alarm went off on Neil. That's his name. Neil's Land Rover. So Neil turned around and, not thinking, it hits the, for it to go, deactivate it. It goes back off again. So they just start walking back down toward it, and they hear something running in the woods. And then all of a sudden something screamed at them over to the side, and Josh brought the light up. It just caught something huge running through the woods. And those two got back in the Land Rover and came back. And both of them are pretty big guys. And Neil just sat there the whole time and was just staring at the campfire. And then all of a sudden he just goes, "You know what, guys, I've had enough. I'm going home. I didn't sign on for this." And he left. And Josh, pretty much said, "I'm not going to the woods by myself anymore after that." Next morning, we went out and we found those prints. And that said, "Holy cow, you guys there really was something out here, And there was a bunch of other prints too. It's just that's the one I really like and stuff.
And then Wes is asking you, how big do you think those are?
These prints are the creature.
No, the prints.
Well, to be honest with taking a look at them.
Talking like 2.
And then Rob, how big do you think the creature would be as well?
Well,
oh my gosh.
No, like I said, I'm going to say I average about 8 foot. Josh said he got a quick glimpse, but he said it was pretty big. And see, the bears here in Florida are not that big compared to up north. And, they're usually most people see them, they see them running off. They don't really, we've not had any bear incidents down here in Florida. I mean, they've seen going through trashes and stuff, but, there's been no, they haven't really caused any too much, they haven't attacked anyone, bottom line. But that was, like I said, and the ladies had a history of stuff on her property. In fact, her husband, I remember asking him, I said, "When did you, find out that you had, a Bigfoot on your property?" And he said, when I was having the house built, I got a call from the people laying down carpet. They called my office and they said, "Hey, you have any kind of weird, wildlife on your property?" And he's like, "What are you talking about, weird wildlife?" And I said, "What are you talking, bears?" And the guy goes, "No, it wasn't a bear." And he goes, "And we're out of here." And he said, and he left. So he called over to the people, the carpet people, and they said, "Yeah, we can't get anybody to come out." They said they saw something at the base of at the bottom of the hill where you live, and they said it looked like a large, hairy, Bigfoot. And they said they weren't coming out. So he had to turn around and call a whole different carpet company to come out and finish putting his carpeting in. But he, Mr. Bridges has never seen it. I mean, he said, "I've been out there plenty of times," and he said, "I wish to see it." But when I was out there, I saw it I saw something large in a FLIR. And at first I thought it was a poacher because Mr. Bridges said, "Be careful, I got poachers on my property." But then when we went back and we had somebody stand over where I saw it, which a guy, David Lauer, who was 6 foot, and I could barely see him, but when, I could clearly see it standing over there. And the thing is, I handed the FLIR over to Stacy. I said, "Hey, there's somebody over there." And he grabbed it and whatever it was, took off running by the time he brought but he caught it running off.
Rob, do you think we'll ever have evidence of the existence of a Bigfoot or Sasquatch?
I think it's happening. I mean, here in Florida, we have a big, huge, we got all kinds of construction going on now and all that stuff. So I think with man which is a classic encroaching into the wilderness and less wilderness, somebody's going to get something, I always, I get asked, "Hey, you believe we should kill a Bigfoot?" I said, "Well, I don't want to kill one, but if I'm walking through the woods and I find a dead one, I'm not going to leave it there." You know, I'm going to pick that sucker up and stick it in my truck and go find the first Wendy's restaurant because they have huge freezers in Wendy's. You know? And I'm going to stick it there. I'm going to call Lyle Blackburn, Dr. Muldrum, all these guys. Say, get over here and see this thing before the government takes it away from me. You know, so
Yeah.
That's actually an interesting point, though. I mean, wouldn't people find them laying dead in the woods when you're going Sasquatching? Like, didn't all of you guys have walked over a dead Sasquatch body? Yeah.
Planet Earth, anyways, with other animals like tigers, for instance, they have their stripes because their prey can't see them.
Yeah.
It's out of their color spectrum.
Yeah.
Now, what about that with Sasquatch? If we can, and that's why it's so mythical. It shows up every now and then, and most people, it's a spiritual thing, or you get scared shitless listening to the noise. You know, could that be out of the realm of, you know, being impossible?
Yeah.
If maybe we can't necessarily see it.
I think those all could be natural defense mechanisms in a species. The unknown at that point.
There's talk of fourth dimensions with him. I mean, he's got an alien sitting there.
I could just speak from my personal experience, though.
But maybe you can't. It's active camp. I don't know.
You know, to pick up who was talking about, I was in the car. I didn't see. Just now I'm in my Bigfoot cave. About sounds that, you know, things make. I remember as a kid, I went into this church, and they had this organ, and I know this is. You say, what does this have to do with it? They had one of the pipes, and they said the people in there said, we never hit the button on this pipe because it puts off a sound that you can't hear, but it'll go through you and it cause you to cause sheer terror in you. And it's, you know, being a little, you know, a teenager saying, oh yeah, we're going to hit that button. We got to see what this thing feels like.
Yeah.
You know? And it starts off, you know, when you feel it, you start feeling a little uncomfortable and all that stuff. And then I don't know if it's your mind, but you actually start getting a little scared. And when I was there, and my buddy just turned around and he took off running. So, you know, I was sitting there thinking, listening to him talking about the sounds. If this animal can emit some kind of a sound that can actually cause you, like that organ, that pipe in the organ to do that, you know, maybe that is, you know, one of the defense mechanisms. You know, not so much it being, you know, paranormal or extraterrestrial, but you know, maybe there is something to that.
Yeah.
Are there a lot of sounds like captured during the day, or, you know, where they normally be a sound recording at night?
Yeah.
That's why it relates into the whole vision, you know, spectrum.
No, I know you guys have probably recorded wood knock such during the day. I don't know. Have you guys found and finding a lot of vocalization during the day?
I just had some people up from Lower Michigan back in September, and we were walking a spot looking for a tree stand that was actually pulled out of a tree by a supposed Bigfoot. And as we were walking, we got to a point where we got a whistle and a howl back at us from, it would have been between where we were and between where we parked our vehicle. So
hey, I'm here,
close.
I did it.
Yeah, it was close. Because I was tracking us on my Onyx Hunt Maps program. So we were within 40 yards of it because the truck was only 80 yards away. So if it was in between us and the truck, it was that close. And that was in that same area over there by the wildlife refuge.
You know, I am going to say that most of the vocals that I've personally heard and ones that I've recorded have been, frankly, right around dusk is many of the vocals that I've heard if I haven't attempted to elicit any sound. Like if I'm just kind of there being quiet, that's usually when I'll hear them. And when I go in the woods now, I usually don't make any noise. I usually don't wood knock, make any calls or anything like that. I just kind of listen.
So you guys would say, though, I mean, Rob, have you had the same kind of experience with like certain times of the day being better for hearing vocalizations?
All my stuff has been at night.
Has it?
You know, when we've heard wood knock, I mean, well, that's not true. I was with my wife and we were doing the Florida Trail, and we got to a point where she said, okay, I had enough. Let's turn around and go back. And it seemed like no sooner than we turned around and bang, we heard this walk, and she looked at me and said, holy cow, that's a wood knock. I said, yeah, it was. And I said, I wonder if that was them signaling that the humans are leaving the area. you know. But I mean,
Yeah.
And but as far as actually hearing them making noises, it's been at night.
Do you think that these animals could potentially be nocturnal then?
Well, well, a lot of animals are, primarily nocturnal due to the fact that, the safety issue. And, I think with the this animal here, it's the food source. We try to find out when the good times are for, when the deer are coming, and you can, there's apps out there to find out when it's feeding time, So that's when we try to, make sure that we're definitely out there looking around because, these animals have to eat something.
Yeah.
And, the Seminoles down here say that they eat deer, they eat the hogs. We have down here in Florida, we have an out of control hog population down here. In fact, hunting season is open year round for hogs down here.
Yeah. So everybody likes bacon, even Sasquatch, is what you're telling me.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. So as far as their main food source up here, like Jim, what do you think that they're eating up here?
I would think
There's not a whole bunch of wild hogs running around in Michigan, right?
there aren't as many. No. One of the things that you have to think about is what might any big critter eat? How can bears survive? They're pretty big critters. There has to be food for them. So what bears can eat are basically also kind of what people can eat. And so if I'm stuck in the woods, am I going to be able to survive? And given a granola bar and a bottle of water, at least for a day.
Yeah.
That's been proven. But
maybe a half.
But could someone like me survive, in perpetuity? And yeah, people have been doing this. And so if people can survive, if bears can survive, then there's a chance that another big old apex predator who also would have to really be good at foraging could survive also. And meat, vegetation, anything that you could get your hands on. Think of possums. They somehow live, and those suckers are slow and dumb.
Yeah. We're going to start to wrap it up here soon, but I did want to ask Rob about something too. Do you want to go over yours first?
Yeah.
All right.
Do we have an idea of like how many of these there are? I mean, it's like we kind of talk about it all the time as like it's one thing, and it's like it can't be. It's obviously multiple.
Yes.
But I mean, well, how are there any estimates about how many we think there are, or is that been a thought? I just want to get you guys' thoughts.
Yeah, maybe start with Rich. You want to take this one first?
It's hard to say how many there are. There's definitely enough that there's a breeding population. I was actually trying to dig through some notes that I have here from different.
That's what I'm doing.
Different things. The population in Michigan, according to a talk that Dr. Meldrum did at one of our conferences that we held, was that Michigan would hold between 185 to 370 Bigfoots statewide. So that's Upper and Lower Peninsula together.
Okay.
Which is a lot fewer than bear.
Yeah, a lot fewer than bear.
A lot.
He also said that their home range would be about 1,000 square miles for a male input or male Bigfoot, independent from the family group. So
you got to think of big. You're talking 400. I mean, that's a huge territory.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Rob, do you have anything to put into that?
Again, I'm going to go out. I had a conversation with Dr. Meldrum about it, and he said it had to be at least 200 for them to be successfully breed and keep themselves populated here in Florida. And we still, a lot of people think, Florida is, Disney World, Universal. We still have a lot of area here that, right next to Disney is a place called the Green Swamp. and it is, I forget the how many miles out there. And there's parts of the green swamp that haven't even been explored by humans.
I'm sure it's just tough to get in and out of there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you think it's like a Gigantopithecus, what is it, a Neanderthal mix of some sort on the, DNA gene pool?
I think it's a form of primate.
Yeah.
From what I've experienced and what I've heard and felt, that's what I don't know. What do you guys think? I know we kind of touched base on that a little bit. Do you guys think it is a primate? Do you think it's something else?
I had a scientist one time tell me, we were talking about it. In fact, it was he came to me, he said, I heard you look for Bigfoot and all that, we were talking. And he said, the odd thing is there's nothing in science saying that these animals can't be out there. He said, he says, but I don't have what it takes to go in and get a grant to go look. He said, but I have you guys out there. Sooner or later, you're going to find something, and then we can step in and get grant money to go further, the research on these things. But, it looking like a primate. I mean, like I said, from what the witnesses that I feel did see something, it is definitely a primate type creature. It's not a bear or anything else like that.
Yeah, and because primates exist, obviously they're out there. I agree with you that seems like much more reasonable than many other ideas. And some of the behavior seems like primate behavior, whether it's rock throwing, tree swishing, tree branch breaking, using branches for communication, which primates will do. That's primate typical behavior. And so either it's people that are making this up and they've studied primate behavior, or they're seeing behavior that is primate. And so it's just fascinating. So
yeah, I agree with all that. I'm under the impression that they're a primate. There's something that evolved alongside of us. That's why they know how dangerous we can be and how they avoid us as well as they do. Now, the medium that works along with me, because in doing my Bigfoot research, I've gotten a lot of the Bigfoot lives underneath my kitchen sink, Bigfoot lives in my neighbor's garage calls. So the medium and I ended up getting together and talking, and she does her ghost research and has me go help with that. And when I do Bigfoot stuff, she comes and helps me because she actually had a Bigfoot experience. She believes they're an interdimensional being, and when they're in our dimension, they're flesh and blood, but they can just as easily step through a portal or an interdimensional tear and walk away from it. I don't completely discount her on that. I'm in the flesh and blood camp.
Yeah.
I would just say, I don't know. To me, if this animal has the ability to go within their inner dimension, and it has the ability to cloak itself, because I've had people come up and, the whole cloaking thing, it would seem that he would be in the higher order over humans.
Yes.
To be able to do this.
Octopus can shapeshift and change colors. Why can't he?
I mean, that's my thinking on that.
Gigantic and then Neanderthal. I mean, it's falls. That's the thing I said. Okay.
So Rob, I'm scared to death of alligators, but I've always wanted to go down to Florida and look for some of those skunk ape. When I get down there, can I call you up and you show me some good spots?
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've heard of Dave Shealy. He runs this skunk. I went out with him one day. We were walking through the water, and he's in front and walking. And we were out in the middle of this swampy area, and I said, "Hey, Dave, are there alligators out here?" He goes, "Oh yeah, they're all over the place." And I just looked, and I said, "What? That would have been nice to know at the beginning." He goes, "Oh, just drag your feet. If they're there, they'll get out of your way. Just don't step on them."
Good advice. Thanks, bud. So I was I'm interested when Rich was just talking about the paranormal stuff that you help your friends with, or your friend with. And then knowing that Rob is in kind of the paranormal game as well, is that a common thing with you guys that are really big into Sasquatch, that you also dabble into things like ghosts and paranormal and aliens and stuff like that. And I know, Rob, it's part of the legend tripping book, but is that common, or are you guys just dabbling?
Well, I did it because my wife got into it, and I mean, the sad part is when I go out ghost hunting with her, you know, we'll get out there, we'll set up cameras in the area, and I usually fall asleep. You know, unless we see, you know, something. I mean, we went to this one place where, you know, there was supposedly a ghost of a naked lady. I stayed awake for that one, but unfortunately, I didn't get to see anything. But you know, I have had a lot of ghost hunters approach me about wanting to come out and to go out and do, you know, go on a Bigfoot hunt with us and stuff. But like I said, my whole paranormal thing is, you know, they have to do with my wife.
Gotcha.
I haven't had a paranormal experience, but I mean, I'm open to it. You know, but I think.
Has your wife had a paranormal experience?
Yeah, she's had some. She's had some when she was young, and you know, so. And oddly enough, she's not a big, you know, she's had some pretty interesting experiences out with me, but she's not an avid believer in the existence of Bigfoot. She's just, when I see it, I'll believe it. But when I see it, I'm never going in the woods with you again.
Another thing that might be a factor in this is the fact that if someone is open-minded enough to think that there might be a big old hairy 8-foot-tall creature in the woods, you might also be open to other ideas, because part of the issue is, you know, I'm out there trying to collect evidence because it'd be cool. It'd be cool if there was a Bigfoot. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
But the other issue is, if I'm doing that and someone else is out looking for aliens, you know, it's just like we're doing the same thing. And lots of times it's funny. I go and I've spoken to ghost hunter groups and exchanged ideas, because a lot of what we do is exactly the same type of thing. As a matter of fact, they always state that I'm just misinterpreting ghosts. It's not Bigfoot, it's just ghosts.
Gotcha.
And I think that that's awesome. I'm like, all right.
I think bottom line, it's just interest in the supernatural.
Yeah. Something that's unknown. I mean, you're still like a treasure.
Yeah, it's more interesting than, you know, whatever else going to the grocery store. You know, this is exciting. Maybe you see it, maybe it's real, maybe it's not.
Well, then in the allure of like you being the first one that got like an amazing picture, or like you get to go up and get a video and you're shaking hands with Bigfoot or something, you know?
He sells you beef jerky.
Yeah, he gives you some beef jerky and then kicks you across the place.
Hey, Jim, you're also an author. Can you tell us a little bit about your book, and I especially the front cover?
Yeah, isn't it a drawing by a kid?
Oh, wait a minute.
Your best drawing?
Yeah, this is the original. I'm going to try to make it so you can see it. My daughter made this when she was 7, and she basically wanted to draw a picture of Bigfoot for her daddy, because she knew that her daddy was weird, and she wanted to draw this Bigfoot that was happy and living a perfect life and stuff like that. And so I put it on the cover of my book, and I wrote this book years ago, but it's basically how I went from someone who was interested in aliens, Loch Ness Monster, everything, to holy crap, I'm scared to be in the woods because of some just scary crap that happened to me, which forced me then to go researching Bigfoot. That's why I researched Bigfoot, because I was so scared. And if I research it and I go out and I want to see something, it's no longer scary because I'm looking for it. I mean, last weekend, I'm at my cabin in the Manistee National Forest, huge wood knock. And I'm like, you've got to, middle of the day, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. That is so awesome. Whereas in the past, because of some experiences that I had when I was younger, I would have gotten in my Jeep and drove home. All right. But now I'm just like I grab my camera and my recorder, and I'm like, and a couple of guns here and there. And I'm like, running into the woods because
here and there.
because why not? I was strapped.
He was from Chicago.
No, I just hope that if there is these skunk apes or the Sasquatch and stuff, that he's somewhat close to Harry from Harry and the Hendersons. You know, he's a sweet guy. Harry was sweet. He's very nice, very lovable. You know, so that's how I try to imagine.
Yeah. John Lithgow.
John Lithgow, he didn't even know what was happening. He hit him with his car. You know, geez Louise, Harry, get out of the road. You know? Well, we'll start to wrap it up here. I think we're up past our 2 hour that we try to cap this thing off, but this is so good that I couldn't really stop anybody. So this is amazing. Hopefully we get you guys back on. I would love to at some point have you guys talk about some paranormal stuff, or you know, even hear Rob talk about some of the alien stuff. So maybe we could do something again in the future.
Yeah.
I would love to try to put that together. But want to say thank you again to Rich Meyer, to Jim Sherman, and to Rob Robinson, as well as Wes and Kevin Patrick back out here tonight. Thank you to the production team back there as well. You guys have been great tonight. Thank you for lighting yourself on fire.
They were pretty hot tonight.
That was amazing. It really was a nice highlight. So we just want to say thank you to all the sponsors. Keep liking, subscribing, commenting. All that stuff helps more than you know. And keep stoking those fires. We will see you very soon. Fire banter. We're out of here. Thanks for watching the episode. Thank you to everyone that's been subscribing, liking, commenting. Keep doing that. It means the world to us. Did want to say thank you to all of our amazing sponsors. York Furrier. If you're looking for fine outerwear and furs, go check them out in Elmhurst, right on York Road. More Brewing Company. If you're looking for interesting, creative craft brews and food, go check them out in Villa Park and Huntley. JPL Landscaping and Property Services. They've given us this fantastic firewood once again, so they're going to be keeping us warm for quite a while. Thank you so much, Jim. Mike's and Casey's Meat Markets. Well, we love their meats. That's as simple as it gets there. Thank you guys for your support as well. Jay and Jill Create, you guys are part of the family. Really appreciate everything you've done for us. Claremont Collections, the most impressive private car collection in the city. It is a museum. Go check them out. Consume cannabis. If you're going to consume cannabis. And then Angel Fancies is our newest sponsor, giving us this fantastic new sign. Check it out. Beautiful stuff. She does custom signs, shirts, everything else. Anything you need printed, check them out on Spring Road in Elmhurst. And as always, the Basement Boys. We love you guys. Bunch of crazies there. We love them. Bonfire Banter, keep watching. Thank you so much, everyone supporting us. Keep stoking those fires.